AI humanizer result. I never mentioned my $40,000 monthly salary to my son. He just saw me living a simple, quiet life. One day, he invited me to dinner with his wife's parents who were visiting from abroad. I decided to play along, pretending to be a broke, naive mother, to see how they'd treat me if they believed I had nothing. The moment I walked into that restaurant, everything changed. What happened that night hit Simone, my daughter-in-law, and her family so hard, they never saw it coming, and honestly, they deserved every bit of it. Let me tell you how it all unfolded. My son Marcus, 35 years old, never learned the truth about me. To him, I was always just mom. The woman who left for the office before sunrise, came home tired at night and made dinner with whatever she could find in the fridge. Just an employee. Maybe a secretary, someone ordinary, nothing special. I never corrected him. I never said, Marcus, I make $40,000 every month, or I'm a senior executive at a multinational corporation, signing million-dollar contracts and running teams. Why bother? Money isn't something you frame on the wall. I grew up in a world where dignity didn't shout, where staying quiet meant more than showing off. I carried my truth inside. I lived in the same modest apartment for years. My old leather handbag lasted until it was falling apart. I bought clothes on sale, cooked at home, saved and invested everything, and I got rich quietly. Real power isn't loud. Real power pays attention. I noticed Marcus seemed nervous when he called that Tuesday afternoon. Mom, I need a favor. Simone's parents are visiting from overseas. It's their first time here. They want to meet you. Can you come to dinner Saturday? Something felt off. He sounded more worried about me embarrassing him than anything else. Did they ask about me? I wanted to know. Silence. I told them you work in an office, you live alone, you're simple, you don't have much. Simple. The word felt like a slap, like my whole life could be summed up in that one sad adjective. Okay, Marcus, I'll be there. I hung up and looked around my living room. Old but comfortable furniture, plain walls, nothing flashy. If my son thought I was poor and Simone's parents were coming ready to judge, then fine, I'd play along. I'd show them exactly what they expected, a broke, desperate mother barely holding on. Because honestly, I suspected Simone's family were the type who measured everyone by their bank balances. My gut never fails. Saturday came. I put on the worst outfit I could find, a wrinkled, shapeless gray dress, scuffed shoes, no jewelry, not even a watch. Faded tote bag in hand, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. The mirror showed a woman who looked worn out, barely recognizable. Perfect. I took a taxi to the address, a fancy restaurant in the richest part of town, the kind of place that doesn't bother listing prices on the menu. As we drove, I felt two things, anticipation and a little sadness. Part of me hoped I was wrong and they'd be kind. But after decades working with corporate sharks, the other part knew exactly what was coming. Stepping out of the taxi, I saw warm lights, a doorman in white gloves, stylish people all around. Inside, Marcus was already at a long table near the window, nervous in a dark suit. Simone stood beside him, flawless in a cream dress with gold details. She wasn't looking at me. She looked tense, maybe embarrassed. Simone's parents, Veronica and Franklin, sat at the table like royalty. Veronica wore jewels everywhere, emerald dress sparkling, hair in a perfect bun. She had that cold, intimidating beauty. Franklin wore a tailored suit, a giant watch, serious face. They looked straight out of a luxury magazine. I walked over, shuffling my feet, pretending to be shy. Marcus saw me and his face changed, eyes wide, scanning me up and down. Mom, you said you'd come. He looked uncomfortable. I'm here, son, I said, smiling the way someone does who's not used to places like this. Simone kissed my cheek, quick and cold. Mother-in-law, nice to see you. Her eyes said otherwise. She introduced me to her parents, almost apologizing for me. Dad, Mom, this is Marcus's mother. Veronica studied me, and I could see it all in her eyes, the judgment, the disappointment. She scanned my outfit, old shoes, tote bag. She stretched out a hand, cold, quick limp. A pleasure, she said. Franklin followed suit, fake smile. I sat down at the farthest chair from them. No one helped, no one asked if I was comfortable. The waiter brought heavy, fancy menus in French. I acted confused, incapable. Veronica watched and offered help with another smile. Yes, please, I said softly. She sighed and ordered for me. Something simple, she told the waiter, nothing too expensive. The phrase hung in the air. Marcus looked away. Simone fiddled with her napkin, silent judgment. Veronica started with small talk about their trip, the tiring flight, how different everything was here. Then she smoothly shifted to money. Her hotel was $1,000 a night. They rented a luxury car, went shopping, spent thousands. She kept looking at me, expecting to impress. How nice, I said. That's lovely. She went on. We've always been careful with money. We invested well and now own properties in 3 countries. Franklin has big businesses and I oversee our investments. She smiled with pride. And you, what do you do? Her tone was sugary but poisonous. I work in an office, I replied, looking down. Mostly paperwork, filing simple tasks. Veronica and Franklin exchanged glances. Administrative work, that's fine, honest work. All jobs are dignified, right? Of course, I said. Food arrived, huge plates, tiny portions, painted like artwork. Veronica sliced her steak. This costs $80, she announced. But quality is worth paying for. I nodded. You're right. Marcus tried to change the subject, but Veronica bulldozed ahead. Does your mother live alone? Marcus nodded. Yeah, she has a small apartment. Veronica looked at me, fake pity in her eyes. Must be difficult living alone at your age with little support. Does your salary cover everything? There was the trap. I manage, I save, I don't need much, I answered. Veronica sighed dramatically. So brave, Alara. I admire women who struggle alone. Though, of course, every mother wishes she could give her child more, a better life. But oh well, everyone gives what they can. That was the blow. I hadn't been good enough. Simone stared at her plate. Marcus clenched his fists. I just smiled. Yes, everyone gives what they can. Veronica kept going. We always made sure Simone had the best schools, travels, languages. She's got a great job, makes good money, and when she married Marcus, we helped a lot. House down payment, paid for their honeymoon. We always support our children. And then she looked at me, sharp as a knife. Were you able to help Marcus when they got married? Not much, I replied. A small gift. Veronica smiled. How sweet. Every detail counts, right? The amount doesn't matter. The intention is what's important. Rage started rising inside me. Not wild rage, just cold, steady anger like ice under water. I kept my timid smile, watched Veronica talk. People like her, they talk, inflate themselves, show off. And eventually they reveal what's underneath. Veronica swirled her expensive wine as if she was a connoisseur. This is from an exclusive region in France, $200 a bottle. When you know quality, you don't skimp. Do you drink wine, Ara? Only the cheapest and only on special occasions, I told her. I don't really understand fancy wines. Veronica laughed. Don't worry, not everyone has a trained palate. That comes from experience, travel, education. Franklin chimed in. We've visited vineyards in Europe, South America, California. It's our hobby. Simone offered a weak smile. Thanks, Mom. Veronica turned to me. And you, Ara, any hobbies? I shrugged. I watch TV, cook, take walks in the park, simple things. She and Franklin exchanged glances again, loaded with silent judgment. How lovely, Veronica said. Simple things have their charm, too, but of course everyone aspires to see the world, experience new things. Not everyone gets those opportunities, though. I nodded. You're right, not everyone does. Dessert arrived, tiny, fancy gold flakes. Veronica ordered the priciest one. This is delicious, $30 for a piece of cake the size of a cookie, and see edible gold. I ate my plain dessert in silence. Veronica shifted gears. I think it's important to discuss something as a family now that we're here. Her face turned serious, pretending to be caring. Marcus is our son-in-law and we love him. Simone loves him and we respect her choice. But as parents, we want the best for our daughter. Marcus tensed. Mom, I don't think this is the time. Veronica raised her hand. Let me finish, son. This is important. She faced me. Ara. I know you did your best with Marcus, raising him alone. I respect that. But now he's married, needs stability. We've helped a lot and will keep helping, but it's also important Marcus doesn't have extra burdens. She was calling me a burden. Simone stared at her plate, wanting to vanish. Marcus's jaw was tight. Burdens? I repeated. I don't want to sound harsh, but at your age, living alone on a limited salary, Marcus feels responsible for you, and that's natural. He's a good son, but we don't want his worry to affect the marriage. Perfectly, I replied. Veronica smiled. Glad you understand. Franklin and I have thought about something. She paused for effect. We could help you financially, give you a small monthly allowance so you live more comfortably without Marcus having to worry. It'd be modest, but it'd help. And in exchange, we'd ask you to respect Marcus and Simone's space. Don't seek them out so much, don't pressure them. Give them freedom to build their life without interference. How does that sound? There it was, an offer dressed up as charity, but really, a bribe to get rid of me. They wanted to pay me to disappear from my son's life so I wouldn't be a nuisance. Marcus exploded. Mom, you don't have to. Veronica cut him off. Marcus, calm down. We're adults. Your mother understands, right? I picked up my napkin, wiped my lips, sipped water, and let the silence stretch. Everyone stared at me. Veronica, expectant. Franklin, arrogant. Simone, ashamed. Marcus, desperate. Then I spoke. No more timid voice, no more shrunken posture, just cold, clear resolve. That's an interesting offer, Veronica, very generous. Veronica smiled, thinking she'd won. I have a few questions, though. Veronica blinked. Go ahead, ask. How much would you consider a modest monthly allowance? I asked, leaning forward. Veronica hesitated. Well, maybe $500, maybe $700. So, $700 a month for me to vanish from my son's life. Veronica frowned. I wouldn't put it like that. But you did, I said. That's exactly how you put it. Ara, I don't want you to misunderstand. Of course, I said. Help, like the house down payment, how much was that? Veronica puffed up. $40,000. $40,000, generous. And for the honeymoon, $15,000, $3 weeks in Europe. Incredible, I said. So you spent $55,000 on Marcus and Simone. Veronica smiled. When you love your children, you don't hold back. You're right, I said quietly. When you love your children, you don't hold back. But let me ask, Veronica, all that money, did it buy you anything? Veronica blinked. Like what? I leaned in. Did it buy you respect, real love, or just obedience? Her smile vanished. Excuse me. My voice sharpened. You've spent all night talking money, what things cost, how much you spent, how much you own. But you never asked how I am, if I'm happy, if I need company. You've only measured my worth, and apparently I'm worth $700 a month. Franklin jumped in. I think you're misinterpreting. What are her intentions? I shot back. To treat me with pity, to humiliate me all night, to offer me alms so I'd disappear. Franklin had nothing more to say. Marcus looked pale. Mom, please. No, Marcus, I'm finished being quiet. I put my napkin down, leaned back, met Veronica's eyes. She flinched, looked away, something shifted. They all felt it. Veronica, you said you admire women who struggle alone, who are brave. She nodded awkwardly. So let me ask, have you ever struggled alone? Built something with your own hands without family help? Veronica sputtered. I have achievements. Like what? Tell me. She fiddled with her hair. I manage investments, oversee properties, make important decisions. Made with money your husband generated, right? Businesses he built, investments with family cash. Franklin bristled. That's not fair. My wife works hard. Of course she does, I said, calm. But managing money isn't the same as creating it. Overseeing an empire you inherited isn't the same as building from scratch. Veronica pressed her lips together. I'm not sure where you're going. Let me explain. 40 years ago, I was a 23-year-old secretary, earning minimum wage, living in a rented room, eating whatever was cheapest, and I was alone, completely alone. Marcus stared, shocked. I'd never told him this before. One day, I found out I was pregnant. The father disappeared. My family turned their backs. I had to make a choice, keep going or give up. I kept going, worked until the day I gave birth. Went back to work 2 weeks after Marcus was born. Neighbor watched him. I worked 12 hours a day. I paused, drank water, let it sink in. But I didn't stay a secretary. I studied at night, took courses, learned English at the public. Before, I never told my son about my $40,000 monthly salary, even though he always saw me living a simple life. One day, he invited me to dinner with his wife's parents, who were visiting from abroad. I decided to see how they would treat a poor person by pretending to be a broke and naive mother. But the moment I stepped through the door of that restaurant, everything changed. What happened that night devastated my daughter-in-law and her family in a way they never imagined. And trust me, they deserved it. Let me explain how I got there. Let me tell you who I really am. Because my son Marcus, at 35 years old, never knew the truth about his mother. To him, I was always just the woman who left early for the office, who came back tired in the evenings, who cooked with whatever was in the fridge, just another employee, maybe a secretary, someone ordinary, nothing special. And I never corrected him. I never told him that I earned $40,000 every month, that I had been a senior executive at a multinational corporation for almost 20 years, signing million-dollar contracts and making decisions that affected thousands of people. Why tell him? Money was never something I needed to hang on the wall like a trophy. I grew up in an era where dignity was carried within, where silence was worth more than hollow words. So I guarded my truth. I lived in the same modest apartment for years. I used the same leather handbag until it was worn out. I bought clothes at discount chains, cooked at home, saved everything, invested everything, and became rich in silence, because true power doesn't shout, true power observes. And I was observing closely when Marcus called me that Tuesday afternoon. His voice sounded different, nervous, like when he was a kid and had done something wrong. "Mom, I need to ask you a favor. Simone's parents are visiting from overseas. It's their first time here. They want to meet you. We're having dinner on Saturday at a restaurant. Please come." Something in his tone made me uncomfortable. It wasn't the voice of a son inviting his mother, it was the voice of someone asking not to be embarrassed, to fit in, to make a good impression. "Do they know anything about me?" I asked calmly. There was a silence. Then Marcus stammered. "I told them you work in an office, that you live alone, that you're simple, that you don't have much." There it was, the word simple, as if my entire life could be contained in that miserable adjective, as if I were a problem he needed to apologize for. I took a deep, deep breath. "Okay, Marcus, I'll be there." I hung up and looked around my living room. Old but comfortable furniture, walls without expensive artwork, a small TV, nothing that would impress anyone. And at that moment, I decided if my son thought I was a poor woman, if his wife's parents were coming ready to judge, then I would give them exactly what they expected to see. I would pretend to be broke, naive, and desperate, a mother barely surviving. I wanted to feel firsthand how they treated someone who had nothing. I wanted to see their true faces because I suspected something. I suspected Simone and her family were the type of people who measured others by their bank accounts. And my instinct never fails. Saturday arrived. I dressed in the worst outfit I owned. A light gray, shapeless, wrinkled dress, the kind they sell at a thrift store. Old, worn-out shoes, no jewelry, not even a watch. I grabbed a faded canvas tote bag, pulled my hair back into a messy ponytail, and looked in the mirror. I looked like a woman broken by life. Forgettable, perfect. I got into a taxi and gave the address. A high-end restaurant in the most exclusive part of the city, the kind where the menu doesn't list prices, where each table setting costs more than the average person's monthly salary. As we drove, I felt something strange, a mix of anticipation and sadness. Anticipation because I knew something big was coming. Sadness because a part of me still hoped I was wrong. I hoped they would treat me well, that they would be kind, that they would look past the old clothes. But the other part, the one that had worked 40 years among corporate sharks, that part knew exactly what was waiting for me. The taxi stopped in front of the restaurant. Warm lights, a doorman in white gloves, elegant people entering. I paid, stepped out, took a deep breath, crossed the threshold, and there they were. Marcus was standing next to a long table near the windows. He wore a dark suit, a white shirt, and shiny shoes. He looked anxious. Beside him was Simone, my daughter-in-law. She wore a tailored cream dress with gold accents, high heels, her perfectly straight hair falling over her shoulders. She looked impeccable as always, but she wasn't looking at me. She was looking towards the entrance with a tense, almost embarrassed expression. And then I saw them, Simone's parents, already seated at the table, waiting like royalty on their thrones. The mother, Veronica, wore a fitted emerald green dress full of sequins, jewels on her neck, wrists, fingers. Her dark hair was pulled back in an elegant bun. She had that cold, calculated type of beauty that intimidates. Beside her was Franklin, her husband, an immaculate gray suit, a giant watch on his wrist, a serious expression. Both looked like they had stepped out of a luxury magazine. I walked toward them slowly with short steps as if I were afraid. Marcus saw me first and his face changed. His eyes widened. He looked me up and down. I noticed him swallow. "Mom, you said you'd come." His voice sounded uncomfortable. Of course, son, here I am. I smiled timidly, the smile of a woman unaccustomed to such places. Simone greeted me with a quick kiss on the cheek. Cold, mechanical. Mother-in-law, it's nice to see you. Her eyes said the opposite. She introduced me to her parents in a strange, almost apologetic tone. Dad, Mom, this is Marcus's mother. Veronica looked up, studied me, and in that instant I saw everything. The judgment, the disdain, the disappointment. Her eyes scanned my wrinkled dress, my old shoes, my canvas. Tote, she didn't say anything at first, just extended a hand. Cold, quick, and weak, a pleasure. Franklin did the same. A weak handshake, a false smile, charmed. I sat down in the chair at the end of the table, the one furthest from them, as if I were a second-class guest. No one helped me pull out my chair. No one asked if I was comfortable. The waiter arrived with the elegant, heavy menus written in French. I opened mine and pretended not to understand anything. Veronica watched me. Do you need help? With the menu? She asked with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Yes, please, I don't know what these words mean. My voice came out small, timid. She sighed and ordered for me. Something simple, she said. Something that doesn't cost too much, we don't want to overdo it. The phrase hung in the air. Franklin nodded. Marcus looked away. Simone played with her napkin. No one said anything, and I just watched. Veronica started talking first about general things, the journey from abroad. How tiring the flight was, how different everything was here. Then she subtly began to talk about money. She mentioned the hotel where they were staying, $1,000 a night. She mentioned the luxury car they had rented, obviously. She mentioned the stores they had visited. We bought a few things, nothing major, just a few thousand. She spoke, looking at me, expecting a reaction, expecting me to be impressed. I just nodded. How nice, I said. That's lovely, she continued. You know, Ara, we've always been very careful with money. We worked hard, we invested well. Now we have properties in 3 countries. Franklin has major businesses and I oversee our investments. She smiled a smile of superiority. And you, what exactly do you do? Her tone was sweet but venomous. I work in an office. I replied, lowering my gaze. I do a little bit of everything. Paperwork, filing, simple things. Veronica exchanged a look with Franklin. Ah, I see, administrative work. That's fine. It's honest. All jobs are dignified, right? Of course, I replied. The food arrived, enormous plates with tiny portions, all decorated like art. Veronica cut her steak with precision. This costs $80, she said, but it's worth it. Quality is worth paying for. One can't just eat anything, right? I nodded. Of course, you're right. Marcus tried to change the subject, talking about work and some projects. Veronica interrupted him. Son, does your mother live alone? Marcus nodded. Yes, she has a small apartment. Veronica looked at me with feigned pity. It must be difficult, isn't it, living alone at your age without much support? And does your salary cover everything? I felt the trap closing. I barely replied, but I manage, I save where I can, I don't need much. Veronica sighed dramatically. Oh, Alara, you are so brave. Truly, I admire women who struggle alone. Although, of course, one always wishes to give our children more, to give them a better life. But oh well, everyone gives what they can. There was the subtle but deadly blow. She was telling me I hadn't been enough for my son, that I hadn't given him what he deserved, that I was a poor, insufficient mother. Simone was looking at her plate. Marcus was clenching his fists under the table, and I just smiled. Yes, you're right. Everyone gives what they can. Veronica continued. We always made sure Simone had the best. She went to the best schools, traveled the world, learned 4 languages. Now she has an excellent job, earns very well. And when she married Marcus, well, we helped them quite a bit. We gave them money for the down payment on the house. We paid for their honeymoon because that's just who we are. We believe in supporting our children. She looked at me intently. And you, were you able to help Marcus with anything when they got married? The question floated like a sharp knife. Not much, I replied. I gave them what I could, a small gift. Veronica smiled. How sweet. Every detail counts, right? The amount doesn't matter. The intention is what's important. And right then, I felt the rage begin to stir within me. The rage wasn't explosive. It was cold, controlled, like a river under ice. I breathed slowly, kept the timid smile, and let Veronica keep talking because that's what people like her do. They talk. They inflate themselves. They show off. And the more they talk, the more they reveal themselves, the more they expose the emptiness inside. Veronica took a sip of her glass of red, expensive wine, swirling it in her hand as if she were an expert. This wine is from an exclusive region in France. It costs $200 a bottle, but when you know quality, you don't skimp. Do you drink wine, Ara? Only on special occasions, I replied, and usually the cheapest one. I don't understand much about these things. Veronica smiled condescendingly. Oh, don't worry, not everyone has a trained palate. That comes with experience, with travel, with education. Franklin and I have visited vineyards in Europe, South America, and California. We are quite knowledgeable. Franklin nodded. It's a hobby, something we enjoy. Simone is learning, too. She has good taste. She inherited it from us. He looked at Simone with pride. Simone offered a weak smile. Thanks, Mom. Veronica turned to me. And you, Ara, do you have any hobbies? Anything you enjoy doing in your free time? I shrugged. I watch television, cook, walk in the park, simple things. Veronica and Franklin exchanged another look. A look loaded with meaning, with silent judgment. How lovely, Veronica said. Simple things have their charm, too. Although, of course, one always aspires to more, right? To see the world, to experience new things, to grow culturally. But well, I understand not everyone has those opportunities. I nodded. You're right. Not everyone has those opportunities. The waiter arrived with dessert, tiny portions of something that looked like edible art. Veronica ordered the most expensive one, $30 for a piece of cake the size of a cookie. This is delicious, she said after the first bite. It has edible gold on top. See those little golden flakes. It's a detail only the best restaurants offer. I ate my dessert. Simpler, cheaper. In silence, Veronica continued, You know, Ara, I think it's important that we talk about something as a family now that we are all here. She looked up. Her expression changed, becoming serious, falsely maternal. Marcus is our son-in-law, and we love him very much. Simone loves him, and we respect that decision, but as parents, we always want the best for our daughter. Marcus tensed up. Mom, I don't think this is the time. Veronica raised her hand. Let me finish, son. This is important. She looked at me. I understand you did the best you could with Marcus. I know raising him alone wasn't easy, and I truly respect you for that. But now Marcus is at another stage in his life. He is married. He has responsibilities and well, Simone, and he deserved to have stability. Stability? I asked softly. Yes, Veronica replied. Financial, emotional stability. We have helped a lot, and we will continue to help. But we also believe it's important that Marcus doesn't have unnecessary burdens. Her tone was clear. She was calling me a burden. Me, his mother, his mother-in-law. Simone was looking at her plate as if she wanted to disappear. Marcus had his jaw clenched. Burdens? I repeated. Veronica sighed. I don't want to sound harsh, Alara, but at your age, living alone with a limited salary, it's natural for Marcus to worry about you, to feel that he must take care of you, and that's fine. He is a good son. But we don't want that worry to affect his marriage. Do you understand me? Perfectly, I replied. Veronica smiled. I'm glad you understand. That's why we wanted to talk to you. Franklin and I have thought about something. She paused dramatically. We could help you financially, give you a small monthly allowance, something that allows you to live more comfortably without Marcus having to worry so much. Obviously, it would be modest. We can't work miracles, but it would be a support. I remained silent, watching her, waiting. She continued. And in exchange, we would only ask you to respect Marcus and Simone's space, not to seek them out so much, not to pressure them, to give them the freedom to build their life together without interference. How does that sound? There was the offer, the bribe disguised as charity. They wanted to buy me off. They wanted to pay me to disappear from my son's life. So I wouldn't be a nuisance, so I wouldn't embarrass their precious daughter with my poverty. Marcus exploded. Mom, that's enough, you don't have to. Veronica interrupted him. Marcus, calm down, we're talking like adults. Your mother understands, right? I picked up my napkin, calmly wiped my lips, took a sip of water, and let the silence grow. Everyone was looking at me. Veronica with expectation, Franklin with arrogance, Simone with shame, Marcus with desperation. And then I spoke. My voice came out differently. It was no longer timid. It was no longer small. It was firm, clear, and cold. That's an interesting offer, Veronica. Truly very generous of you. Veronica smiled victoriously. I'm glad you see it that way, I nodded. But I have a few questions just to understand clearly. Veronica blinked. Of course, ask whatever you like. I leaned forward slightly. How much exactly would you consider a modest monthly allowance? Veronica hesitated. Well, we were thinking about $500, maybe $700 depending. I nodded. I see. $700 a month for me to disappear from my son's life. Veronica frowned. I wouldn't put it like that, but yes, I responded. That is exactly how you put it. She adjusted in her chair. Ara, I don't want you to misunderstand. We just want to help. Of course, I said help. How did you help with the house down payment? How much was that? Veronica nodded proudly. $40,000. Actually, $40,000. Ah, $40,000. How generous. And the honeymoon, $15,000. Veronica said it was a 3-week trip through Europe. Incredible. Unbelievable, I replied. So you've invested about $55,000 in Marcus and Simone. Veronica smiled. Well, when you love your children, you don't hold back. I nodded slowly. You're right. When you love your children, you don't hold back. But tell me something, Veronica. All that investment, all that money, did it buy you anything? Veronica blinked, confused. Like, did it buy you respect? I continued. Did it buy you real love, or did it just buy obedience? The atmosphere changed. Veronica stopped smiling. Excuse me. My tone became sharper. You spent the entire night talking about money, about how much things cost, how much you spent, how much you have. But you haven't asked even once how I am, if I'm happy, if something hurts me, if I need company. You have only calculated my worth, and apparently I'm worth $700 a month. Veronica palled. I didn't. Yes, I interrupted her. Yes, you did. Since I arrived, you've been measuring my value with your wallet. And do you know what I discovered, Veronica? I discovered that the people who only talk about money are the ones who least understand their true value. Franklin intervened. I think you are misinterpreting my wife's intentions. I looked at him directly. And what are her intentions? To treat me with pity, to humiliate me throughout dinner, to offer me alms so I'd vanish. Franklin opened his mouth but said nothing. Marcus was pale. Mom, please. I looked at him. No, Marcus, please don't. I'm done being quiet. I placed the napkin on the table. I leaned back in my chair. There was no more timidity in my posture, no more shrinking. I looked Veronica directly in the eyes. She held my gaze for a second, then quickly looked away, uncomfortable. Something had changed, and she felt it. Everyone felt it. Veronica, you said something very interesting a moment ago. You said you admire women who struggle alone, who are brave. Veronica nodded slowly. Yes, I did. Then let me ask you something. Have you ever struggled alone? Have you ever worked without your husband backing you? Have you ever built something with your own 2 hands, without your family's money? Veronica stammered. I have my own achievements. Like what? I asked with genuine curiosity. Tell me. Veronica adjusted her hair. I manage our investments. I oversee properties. I make important decisions in our businesses. I nodded. Businesses your husband built, properties you bought together, investments made with the money he generated. Or am I wrong? Franklin intervened, annoyed. That's not fair. My wife works just as hard as I do. Of course, I replied calmly. I don't doubt she works. But there is a difference between managing money that already exists and creating it from scratch. Between overseeing an empire you inherited and building it brick by brick, don't you think? Veronica pressed her lips together. I don't know where you are going with this, Ara. Let me explain, I replied. 40 years ago, I was 23 years old. I was a secretary in a small company. I earned minimum wage. I lived in a rented room. I ate the cheapest food I could find. And I was alone, completely alone. Marcus stared at me. I had never told him this in such detail. I continued. One day I got pregnant. The father disappeared. My family turned their backs on me. I had to decide whether to keep going or give up. I chose to keep going. I worked until the last day of my pregnancy. I went back to work 2 weeks after Marcus was born. A neighbor took care of him during the day. I worked 12 hours a day. I paused and drank some water. No one spoke. I didn't stay a secretary. I studied at night. I took courses. I learned English at the